Right now, GOP political strategist Matt Mackowiak joins us. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Chad. Good morning. I'm doing great.
Good. Thanks for joining us today. Obviously, the weekend was dominated by one news story, and that was what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. The president coming under a little bit of fire over the weekend for not he condemned violence, he condemned racism, he condemned bigotry, but he did not specifically name the white nationalist groups and these neo-Nazi idiots and some of these other groups. But I put out a morning brief this morning saying that the president should go out and specifically name these organizations. And hey, if you want to throw in Antifa and all these other groups that use violence to divide this nation, go ahead and do that. Why is that a good? Do you think that's a good idea, or is that something the president doesn't need to do? That the president just needs to, stick with this overarching, we condemn bigotry and racism.
Yeah, I think he, failed to rise to the occasion on Saturday. He's been slow to criticize the alt-right and white nationalists, and particularly this kind of strain of white supremacist that's a very, very, very small percentage out there in the country, but they're getting more attention, and they're trying to sort of use Trump as a way to get more attention. I kind of agree with what Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina said over the weekend. He said, these individuals think they have a friend in President Trump. It is up to him to convince them that they don't. I do think, look, if you look across the board, Republicans at all levels, I thought, showed, great unanimity over the weekend condemning the rally, the violence, and in particular white supremacists, neo-Nazis, the KKK, et cetera. The vice president's now done that. The National Security Advisor's done that. The Homeland Security Advisor's done that. The president's only daughter, or one of his daughters, oldest daughter, has done that. We just haven't heard that from the president yet. My guess is you will hear that today. He has, I think, two opportunities, maybe only one in the afternoon when he's going to have a minor thing in front of the press. So we'll see if he does it today. But that would put this behind him, and I just don't understand why they want to continue to give their opponents this weapon to use against them politically. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Do you think is it influence from within the West Wing, or is it just Trump is tone deaf and on this, and he doesn't feel the need to name these groups?
Yeah, look, I don't think I don't ascribe sort of malicious intent. I really don't. But I do think, yes, I think tone deaf is part of it. I think that's number one. I think number two, he's very reluctant to do something when people, quote, demand that he do it. He feels strength is sort of saying no to demands, doing things on your own schedule, on your own time, when you decide it's right. And a lot of times when these demands come in, they come in from establishment individuals, and he sees himself as very much anti-establishment. So his sort of reflex is to resist that. But look, I mean, there's clearly a blind spot on these groups and on some of these issues, and there has been, and that's part of why this is such a problem. This isn't just a one-time thing. This goes back to his resistance to criticize David Duke throughout the campaign, which he was very reluctant to do. It obviously goes back to some of this alt-right stuff, some of which is very troubling. So, again, I mean, I just don't know why they can't, as a team, agree to move forward in the same direction. I mean, you have basically everyone on the team now that's come forward and done the right thing. He hasn't done it yet. Why they've been so slow to act on something like this is just really puzzling.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens today. Obviously, that news story dominated the news cycle over the weekend and kind of blew North Korea, that news story off the map. But also this infighting, and I want to get your opinion on this battle between Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump, and a lot of it's more on Trump's side. Mitch McConnell last week, I think it was late last week, speaking to a Rotary Club, mentioned that the president's inexperience brought up this excessive expectations when it came to repealing Obamacare, that the president thought that this would move faster than what it actually has moved. Donald Trump went after McConnell on this, but I get the feeling that a lot of people are kind of on Trump's side that, hey, after 7 years of campaigning against Obamacare, it should move quickly, right?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of blame to go around here, Chad. I kind of agree with both sides on their criticisms, right? I think on the one hand, I think Senate Republicans are frustrated that the White House creates a lot of drama, a lot of distractions. The president was not helpful on health care in the Senate. He was probably helpful in the House, moving some members to vote yes, but pretty much not helpful in the Senate. But you're right. I mean, look, the Capitol Hill Republicans absolutely blew their opportunity on health care. Now, my hope is they haven't given up. There's no reason for them to give up. They need to keep trying. There's a possibility with this Graham-Cassidy provision, which would basically block grant the money back to the states, and that might be something that could win the support of some of these governors. So we'll see if that can happen in September or October, perhaps. But look, you look at what Obama got done the first 13 months of his presidency. There was a lot there legislatively, and right now with Trump, all we basically have is we have a Supreme Court nominee, which is significant, and McConnell deserves tremendous credit for that. Number one, and number two, you have this reform of the VA, which was a major reform. But other than that, there is really nothing else legislatively of consequence. And we are 7 months, over 200 days into this presidency, and we know that next year, being an election year, it's going to be extremely difficult to get anything done. So they've got 25 or 30 more legislative days this year to obviously try to find a way forward on health care, to pass tax reform, to pass infrastructure, to pass a spending bill, to increase the debt ceiling. I mean, they've got about a year's worth of work and 2.5 months left to do it. I don't see the advantage in attacking McConnell right now when you're going to need him the rest of the way through the rest of this year. So I don't really see the advantage in that. That doesn't strategically make much sense to me. But I understand why all sides are frustrated. They've got to come together and start working together much more efficiently and much more effectively for them all to succeed.
Visiting with Matt Mackowiak. Matt, before we let you go, just your thoughts overall on the special session. We only have just a handful of days left down in Austin. The governor, I know, has said that he's not taking any options off the table when it comes to maybe a second special session. What do you think is going to happen with this one special session, and will we have another?
Yeah, 3 days left. Special session ends on Wednesday. We have the annexation reform, a couple other minor things. Looks like they're going to get property tax reform. The House, I think, still has one more step on that. We'll see if they can get a deal on school finance. That's kind of still kicking around. But so ultimately you're going to have probably 5 or 6 items that ultimately get done. It's going to be up to the governor to decide whether he thinks that's sufficient or not. I've heard lots of different scenarios. I've heard he'll call them right back. I've heard he's thinking of calling them back in January, 2 months before the primary, when a lot of these incumbents do not want to be in Austin. They want to be campaigning for re-election. I've heard he could bring them back perhaps in April after the primary. So I don't know that Abbott's going to be satisfied with 4 or 5 of these items, particularly when the House didn't take a lot of these items very seriously at all from the very beginning. The Senate passed 18 or 19 of them in the first 7 or 8 days. So I think the odds of a special session are probably higher than 50. Another special session are probably higher than 50%. Exactly when it would be, it's going to be up to the governor. He's going to have to decide that, and obviously he's going to want to have confidence that there's going to be even more of a focus in the House on some of these items.
Very interesting. Matt, tell folks how they can sign up for your morning email and also the latest on the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We do a morning news email for the state of Texas at mustreadtexas.com. About 4,000 Texans read that every day. And then my podcast is called Mac, M-A-C-K, on politics. Our latest episode is with 34-year military veteran and 13-year former Delta Ranger, General Jerry Boykin, on the North Korean situation. Very interesting conversation with him about North Korea.
Very cool.
You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and on the web at maconpolitics.com.
All right, Matt, as always, appreciate your time. We'll visit with you next week.
Take care.
That's Matt Mackowiak. Again, you can follow him on Twitter at Matt Mackowiak, also Mac on Politics.